to the Thursday, June 4th, 2020 electronic meeting of the Greenbelt Advisory Commission. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This meeting is in accordance with executive orders from the governor to effect social distancing and mitigate the spread of COVID-19. We intend to conduct this meeting similarly to an in-person meeting. However, please be patient if there are technical issues. Public comment should be via telephone only. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 1-877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID number 998-0664-1762. This information is also available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN Channel 16, AT&T Channel 99, and online at www.a2gov.org/watchctn. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Fike?
Here.
Commissioner Gordon?
Here.
Commissioner Grand?
Here.
Commissioner Schuler?
Here.
Commissioner Bloomer? Commissioner Ellis? I believe you have a quorum.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Anissa.
Anissa, you might have missed Roseanne. She is here.
Commissioner Bloomer? Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Commissioner Ellis is the one I'm showing is absent.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
All right. Yep.
Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. And I actually have a couple of changes to the agenda. So I'd like to propose these changes, which is we're going to delete the approval of the minutes and postpone those to the next meeting. That was the minutes from the February meeting. I'd also like to postpone under new business the new Greenbelt Advisory Commission member introduction. So we'll introduce Eric Ellis at the next Greenbelt Commission meeting. I'd also like to propose that we strike the officers section of the GAC vacancies. And then I have one additional item to add, which is a conservation easement violation. Does someone want to make a motion to approve these or make any other additional changes to the agenda? Julie?
Oh, I'll just move to approve that as amended.
And is there support?
Seconded.
Seconded by Robert. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The agenda is approved as amended. Gosh, my cat is here. Sorry. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is public commentary. And I don't see anybody calling in. I think I would see a number come up on the screen. Is that true, Remy or Anissa?
Yeah, I have no indication that anyone's calling in.
Okay. All right. So we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is old business. And I don't see any items under old business, so nothing to report there. Okay, moving on to new business. The first item is rural internet disclaimer. Remy.
Hey everyone, it's really good to see you all. I don't know if I'm the only one that has to, I think I'm the only one that has to do this disclaimer, but I was dropped on 2 video calls yesterday because I have the worst internet money can buy. So bear with me. If I get dropped, I suppose wait. That would be nice. And then I'll try and get back on. Because Anissa is a co-host, if I drop, I do not believe the entire call drops. So we should have a backup in that regard. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say for that.
Thanks, Remy. Moving on to the next item under new business, which is Greenbelt Advisory Commission vacancies. And we have some vacancies, and we have had somebody apply to the Greenbelt Commission. We're hopeful that that will move forward at the June 15th City Council meeting. It's actually Elizabeth Riggs has applied to the commission, and she is a former employee of the Huron River Watershed Council and currently works at Public Sector Consultants. I've been in touch with, besides that position, there are 2 other vacancies, realtor position. I've been doing some outreach for that, and there is somebody who's expressed some interest but not yet put forth an application. And then I believe we have another public at-large position as well. So please encourage people in your networks to apply. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is recent closings. Oh, wait, before we move on, under the Greenbelt Advisory Commission vacancies, I want to recognize the people that have left the Greenbelt Commission and to acknowledge the work that they've done. So we lost 2 Stephanies, Stephanie Stouffer and Stephanie Buttry. Stephanie Buttry termed out of the commission, and she did great work on the communications committee, on the executive committee, serving as vice chair. And also I believe she was on the scoring committee, and she's going to be sorely missed. And then Stephanie Stouffer has accepted a position managing the Ann Arbor Farmers Market. So she has resigned from the commission because of that. So we're very excited to have her serving in that capacity as the farmers market manager, and wanted to recognize the great work that they both have done in their service on the commission. Okay. All right, next item is recent closings. Remy.
I suppose recent is relative at this point, but the last time we all met was in February for a special meeting, which really we only had a closed session item to discuss. So we rushed through that meeting, but I did want to note since December, we've closed 5 projects, and I'll briefly go over those. Scioto Township led a conservation easement acquisition on 44 acres in Scioto Township on the Hayes property. That conservation easement covered predominantly or all natural areas on a string of conservation easements, so it added to a block. The Stepien conservation easement closed at the end of December, and that was a belt and suspenders project where the city helped fund the acquisition of fee title to the property while the county acquired a conservation easement on the property. And then the ownership, the land is now owned and operated as a public nature preserve by Southeast Michigan Land Conservancy. So that 80 acres has been added to the Superior Greenway. In early 2020, we closed on the ASEP ALE 83 acre Rogers Farm in Lodi Township. And then soon after closed on the Lambarth Farm, which is 151 acres, also in Lodi Township, led by the county. Finally, the infamous Lepkowski closed in, oh geez, I don't even know. Now it's sometime in the last month, I think. And I'll tell you, a remote closing is a lot different than an in-person closing in celebration with a farm family, but we did our best to make it special still. We did manage to get them a sign, a Greenbelt sign for their property, despite it being a remote closing. And so that one was a real nice one to put the final finishes on. So altogether, that's 433 acres added to the map with a fair market value of 3.3 million, to which the Greenbelt only provided 971,000 to see the 3.3 million protected. So that's the summary.
Great work. Busy, busy. Next item on the agenda is fiscal 20 ASAP ALE submissions. Remy?
I also sent you all an email about this, but this was a big year for us. We submitted for a total request of 2.2 million to NRCS for federal funding to do our work on 2 different properties. This request is 2 times larger than any request we've made in the past. And the applications include the largest project ever considered by the Greenbelt, and then the final Huron RCPP project that the Greenbelt will lead, and then that RCPP will close out. So together, this is 338 acres of prime ag soils and 137 acres of mature forest land that's up for consideration. And we will be finding out relatively soon, I'd say within a month and a half, whether or not we were successful. That's all.
Great. Great work. Next item is Greenbelt Advisory Commission's letters of support. And we submitted 2 letters of support recently to partner initiatives. We submitted a letter of support to Superior Township's ambitious application to the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund for financial support to acquire conservation easements on 1,000 acres in Superior Township. I'm not sure when they're supposed to hear back on that, but we hope that comes through for them. And we also provided a letter of support for Washtenaw County Conservation District's November ballot initiative for millage support. Okay, any questions on that?
Just a technical thing I wanted to say. I just found out today that it's actually Washtenaw County Natural Areas Preservation Program's millage renewal is November, but the Washtenaw County Conservation District ballot item is going on the August ballot. So they will not be on the same election ballot. Not that that matters too much, but I just wanted to make sure people knew.
Thanks for clarifying. Okay, next up is public presentations / media coverage. Remy.
So before we couldn't go out anymore, I was out a lot and I was doing some public presentations. I started at the Glacier Hills Retirement Community, or I'm not actually sure what the formal name is, but Glacier Hills had a really nice crowd with very, very pointed questions. I was very impressed with the level of detail they were interested in hearing about in terms of the program and outcomes. That was excellent. We were also contacted by this city of Chelsea and Lima Township, who together were interested in learning more from the conservation outfits in this area to help inform their leadership and their citizens about whether or not they wanted to pursue something along the lines of a millage akin to the Greenbelt for their own area as well. So it was an informative conversation and panel discussion around purchase of development rights programs, what is a conservation easement, what work has been done in Washtenaw County, and what is the opportunity that exists for that area to leverage matching dollars in the overlapping programs that exist in the community already. So that was a really great discussion led by the Watershed Council, but it included Legacy Land Conservancy, Barry Lonick, who represents all the township PDR programs, myself, and the Washtenaw County conservation staff. So that was excellent. And then I headed over to the Ann Arbor Farm and Garden Club. Again, a crowd with extremely great questions. Had a really nice presentation and lunch and discussion with them about the work we've done. And then finally, we did get some press coverage on MLive for the final RCPP press release. I think final. It was a joint press release between the Greenbelt and Legacy because both of our RCPPs this coming fiscal year will be closing out because we've earmarked the entire the entirety of the funds associated with both RCPPs, totaling 5.6 million in RCPP funding put into the ground. So we're pretty happy with that. The projects themselves will be ongoing and they'll close in the next 18 months or so, but the funding has all been allocated, which is, for your reference, RCPP is a 5-year program, and Legacy was able to earmark all of their funding within 3 years, and we were able to earmark all of our funding within 2 years. Our pace of allocating and getting that money into the ground outpaces NRCS's expectations of how those funds can be used on the timeline that they set. So we should be very proud of that as well.
And I believe there was an MLive article about the Lepkowski closing as well. So just add that. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is our July meeting. Typically it's the week of July 4th because it's the 4th or the first Thursday of the month. And typically we postpone that to the second Thursday of the month due to the holiday. And so I would propose that we change that meeting to July 9th. Is anyone seeing any conflicts with that? No. Okay. So Remy will take care of the public notice about that change in the meeting schedule. Okay. And then the item that was added to the agenda, which is conservation easement violation. Remy, if you could take it away on that, please.
Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. If you could let me know when you see it.
Yes.
Great. So the city participated in the acquisition of a conservation easement on the Botsford property in Scioto Township, just outside of the city of Ann Arbor, off of Miller Road. This property, this conservation easement, is adjacent to the Washtenaw County's Pringle Nature Preserve to the west. In late April, we were notified, city staff was notified of some tree cutting that had taken place, or suspected tree cutting. And the owner was contacted, and then additional investigation was done in terms of staff doing a thorough inventory of what damage had been done. So there was an unauthorized tree cutting per the terms of the conservation easement. The city contributed funding to this project, and in the conservation easement, we are the successor grantee. We are not the primary holder of the conservation easement. Scioto Township is. So in all regards to enforcement, restoration, and really matters associated, legal matters associated with this easement violation, Scioto Township will be taking the lead. But I wanted to keep you all briefed and informed that our attorney's office, the city attorney's office, will be in close contact with the Scioto Township attorney representing them in this matter, and that we will be keeping you informed as well. I know city council members are aware of this violation already, and I believe 1 or 2 of them have actually visited the property to see the damage that was done. And so I didn't want you to hear from anyone but me, hopefully, that this has taken place and steps are being taken to address it. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer best I can. Yeah.
I'm assuming cut for timber, or when you say, so I see cut, fatally damaged, and damaged, there were some partial?
Yeah, so there were, it was timbered. A permit was pulled with Scioto Township for the timbering of the property. However, so that did not trigger or flag that there was a conservation easement on the property. They're just making sure that the permit addressed other things that the permit normally addresses. And so it was logged, and then in the extraction of the timber from the property, several other small trees were damaged or cut or killed, fatally damaged. Some of the trees were I can't remember the exact breakdown, but the primary concern here is that there was cutting done. Some of them were oaks, and we are in a season where we need to be concerned about oak wilt and the larger damage associated with cutting and putting the larger ecosystem's health at risk due to the oak wilt infection. So as you can see, the conservation easement only covers a portion of the property. The eastern portion is unencumbered and so not protected, and the western portion is. So we only are accounting for the portions that are actually a violation of the terms of the conservation easement, which is all that's outlined in green. Anything else?
No, I just find this very disturbing.
Yeah, the easement violations, you know, can run the gambit across the country in terms of what they look like. It can be very small and incidental. It can be someone stored a tractor in a part of the woods next to the farm that they shouldn't have stored a tractor in, and they just need to move it. It can go to logging like this and significant damage, concerns about stream bank or erosion in the process of logging. There are best practices out there. I know that Scioto Township is seeking out the best advice they can get and working with the landowner to address the situation. So it's sad that we are not capable of sitting out at properties 24/7, 365 to make sure things like this don't happen. But ultimately, there are consequences and steps to be taken to address the damage that's been done.
As far as I know, this is the first Greenbelt property that has had this kind of violation, or not?
To my knowledge, this level, yeah, I think we've had minor things, like I said, maybe dumping of something, but nothing dramatic dumping. I mean, like, yeah, some old scrap wood that needed to not be there or something like that. But no, to this degree, this is, as I understand it, the first one as well.
Yeah, we haven't had any conservation easement violations since I've been on the commission. Since I think I've been on the commission since 2012. So yeah.
And this portion of it
Alright.
is publicly accessible, correct? So, I mean, that's part of why you knew about it. Kind of an interesting role for citizen watchdogs on Greenbelt properties for us to think about in communication about Greenbelt properties as well, and the role that citizens can play in watching for violations, and what that some might have thought that that's allowed to occur on an easement and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the conservation easement allows for public access on the protected portion of the property. So we were informed by a neighbor who also has a conservation easement on their property, and was in contact with a city staff member, Dick Borneman, to ask whether or not this was something that had been authorized. And so we found out at the end of April, but it was their guess that the timbering actually took place around the time of Easter. So even with a neighbor who was active and concerned, there was still a delay.
Any other questions for Remy? Okay, appreciate that update. Next item on the agenda is next agenda items, and we will have a few carryover items from this meeting. Does anybody have anything else to add for the next agenda at this time? Okay. The next item on the agenda is closed session, and so we will take a vote to move into closed session. Does someone want to make a motion to go into closed session?
I would move.
Robert? And is there support?
A second.
Sheila? All those in favor say aye.
We need to
Aye.
take a roll call on that. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Roll call for the closed session.
Thanks, Anissa. Let's
No
do a roll call
problem.
vote.
All right, let me get that going here. Okay, Commissioner Fike,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Grand.
Yes.
Commissioner Schuler,
Yes.
Commissioner Bloomer. Commissioner Bloomer,
You may be on mute, Roseanne.
He is on mute.
Remy, you should be able to unmute her, I think.
Okay, I think I got it. Yes.
Great.
okay, motion carries.
Okay, so I think we leave this meeting and then open up the other meeting.
Great.
There.
See you in a minute.
Okay, so from our closed session, I am making motions. The first being motion to recommend city participation with Ann Arbor Township in the acquisition of a conservation easement on the property identified in application ID 2018-14 and approval of the contribution of funds not to exceed $60,000 from the open space and parkland preservation millage. Is there support?
Support.
Thanks,
Second.
Roseanne. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Moving on, I have another motion to recommend city participation with Washtenaw County Parks and Recreation Commission in the fee acquisition of property identified in application ID 2019-10 and approval of the contribution of funds not to exceed $73,593 from the open space and parkland preservation millage. Is there support for this motion?
Support.
Thanks, Roseanne. Is there?
Second.
Okay, second. Thanks, Sheila. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And I have a third motion to recommend city participation with Washtenaw County Parks and Recreation Commission in the fee acquisition of property identified in application ID 2020-06 and approval of the contribution of funds not to exceed $115,830 from the open space and farmland preservation millage. Is there a second to the motion? Or
Second.
support? Thanks, Julie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? That motion is carried. Okay. Moving back to the agenda. Public commentary. And I don't see any other members of the public. And then we have communications. And I don't think there haven't been any communications, so we will say there haven't been. Report from commission committees, executive committee report. Remy and I met last week to talk about the agenda for this meeting and to talk about some projects, some potential projects, and also about some of the vacancies on the commission. And the next item on the agenda is communications committee. I don't believe they have met. And scoring committee, Sheila.
We have not met, but one thing we wanted to discuss was the idea of inviting a non-GAC member to be part of the scoring committee to address specifically water quality scoring and aligning with some of what the Huron River Watershed Council is doing in terms of water quality assessment and scoring. I think that goes right along with our strategic plan review of what we heard that water quality was especially important, as well as when we look at parcels, seeing the groundwater recharge is not a very valuable measure and wanting some more valuable, meaningful measures of water quality on the scoring system. So I guess we want to just ask what GAC thought about adding a non-GAC Huron River Watershed Council watershed planner.
I think that would be great. I don't see any reason not to. Great.
So we'll have to think about who that would be, and Remy, think about, I guess, how are we continuing in terms of, is this a priority to start meeting again, or what our timing will be about meeting again?
Oh,
Go ahead, Julie.
I think one of the little used, most boards and commissions, I think, don't use outside members very often, but it's kind of this little known rule that like you can bring in anyone you want into a subcommittee. So, for example, like we saw someone who left because they got termed out, but it doesn't mean that you couldn't call upon them to ask if they wanted to come join you at a subcommittee meeting sometime if you still had questions about communications or something. So
That's a great idea.
So don't, I would you know, especially as small as kind of lean as we are right now, and you know, all the more reason to leverage those resources in our community because they're
And
fantastic.
certainly Elizabeth Riggs will contribute a lot to conversation. I don't know if she'll
Yeah,
be part of the
definitely,
scoring
yeah.
committee, but it'd be good to, like you said, also get non-GAC member
Yeah.
involved.
And I think you just have to look to like all the climate voter signs around the community right now to know that we have a lot of people who like, I think would be happy to, maybe they can't do, you know, something as significant as what most of you do, but they might be willing to come to a few meetings and lend some expertise.
It's a great point. And I guess just an update too on the Masters Project team that is going to dovetail their work, dovetails at least with the scoring committee work that they have started and are moving full steam ahead on looking at both at ecosystem service measures, basically that GAC could use. I don't know
I've
if
been
Amy, you
really
wanted to add
impressed.
something on there. Yeah.
I've just been really impressed with them so far. It's a hardworking team. It's a sharp and insightful team. Yeah, really happy that we have them. Really happy that we found funding for them for the summer to continue their work. They already had a meeting with an employee of the Conservation Fund that does carbon valuations for working forests in the US. And that was a really interesting meeting to sit in on. I mean, obviously, for me, all that content's just like way over my head, but it was really fun to see them engaged and ask good questions and to have the support of the Conservation Fund. The fund made it very clear that they're interested in what this team is doing, that it's really great work, and would be happy to support them in building code for whatever programs they're using for the analysis. So the fund is going to get involved more than just me. So that's really exciting too.
And I think as they move forward, probably good for them to connect with the communications committee of GAC, so because I think they need to think about how, together with Remy, like how are you going to use this? How could we communicate about how it was done to build the credibility in, so there's understanding of we're not just coming up with numbers, or where are they coming up with them? That ability to communicate that.
And I've really enjoyed that in our conversation so far, the students have indicated that they're really leveraging models that are widely used or widely respected, like calculations that were developed by the US Forest Service, or calculations that are approved and utilized by EPA. So when the numbers come to fruition, we have this report. It's not that everything was created from square one. We have really, really strong methods that are backing the valuations and the estimations that are being put forth. So I really like that that's where their mind was at, was to use something that has a strong foundation to stand on. I'll also say, I'm not sure, and Sheila, we need to talk, but the scoring committee is going to potentially gain so much from their work that it's hard to want to meet before that report is available to us. I know that everyone knows that our scoring system needs updating, but to put in a whole lot of
water
work.
quality stuff especially is going to, for us to do that before they're finished doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I wanted to add to Julie's point was a non-GAC member providing information to GAC as a whole. We lost Stephanie Stauffer to the farmers market position, but in a way we gained so much in that. I would like, hopefully, to sort of, if possible, formalize not a tradition, but a habit of inviting the farmers market manager, whoever they may be, to GAC maybe once or twice a year to give a feeling of what they're hearing from the market vendors. What are the challenges that their landowners are facing in the markets and in terms of land ownership and land tenure and everything that is related to our work. So Stephanie is uniquely positioned to understand the complexity of both sides, as she is a small business owner and farmer and the market manager and served on GAC. So we stand to gain a lot from her presence working for the city now, but I don't want to lose it. So hopefully we can invite her in 6 months or toward the end of the year to give an update on what she's seen at the market.
Great idea.
Makes sense.
Anything else? Okay. So does someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Support?
Support.
Thanks, Sheila. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Great to see you all virtually.
Great to see you too.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Remy.